I think what's interesting about NBC is that it has such a positive family image. I think that what's so jarring for people is when you see that out front, to learn that behind the scenes there are instances of real abuse and there are people who are being taken advantage of.
Our top story is once again about our former colleague, Matt Lauer.
Well, Matt Lauer was fired very abruptly at the end of November, and almost immediately NBC announced that it was going to conduct an internal investigation into what had happened. I would say I sort of essentially started reporting then. What I initially set out to do is what would they find in an internal investigation. Overall, I talked to around 35 current and former NBC staffers and executives. Eventually I got in touch with Ann Curry, who had sort of famously been let go from the Today Show. She told me that she had reported to NBC after having been approached by a woman who says she was sexually harassed by Matt Lauer. Ann Curry approached members of NBC management, she wouldn't specify who, and she told them that they had a problem with Matt Lauer and that they should keep an eye on him with respect to his interactions with women. No one has ever said before that there was any kind of awareness at any level of management at any time about Matt Lauer's behavior with women. Ann Curry's the first person to be on the record saying that she did that. And so I think that that is really one of the biggest things that we learned in the story, is that in fact she did raise those alarms. Granted, it wasn't a formal written complaint about a specific incident. She gave them a general warning about Matt Lauer's behavior with women. But that shows a level of awareness. We don't know exactly who knew what when, but we knew that somebody knew something. One of the things that I found in my interviews was there was something of a pattern of powerful men at NBC having relationships with more junior women who were working in this, who were at NBC as well. When Tom Brokaw was at Nightly News, he was as big a character, if not bigger, than what Matt Lauer was at the Today Show. Linda Vester, who was a woman who was a correspondent for NBC News, told me a pretty detailed story about how Tom Brokaw had come over to her room when she was staying at a hotel and really forcibly tried to pull her head towards him and kiss her. He preceded that by telling her that he wanted to have an affair of more than passing affection. He denies this. Tom Brokaw says that he met Linda Vester, but they had appropriate interactions, and he denies making any kind of romantic advance. But what she told me was that as soon as he sort of expressed any interest in her, she was terrified to anger him or to rebuff him, and wanted to get out of the situation without actually having to make him angry. And she would never have reported it to anyone. She said that she knew that if there was a choice between someone like Brokaw and between her, she would be the person who would have to leave. And that is what makes that story relevant to what happened to Matt Lauer, is the fear that people had of alienating or getting on the wrong side of someone with that kind of power at the network. We've said for a long time that sexual harassment is not about sex, it's about power. And I think when we look at these towering figures and how people were afraid to say anything against them and afraid to report them, that's really what came to the fore.